that's usually a cue, you know. So anyway, nice. Hey? Speeding? Yeah, that's a good boundary. Tell me a little bit about that one. Don't speed. Nah, because you could end up, you know, losing your licence or points or something. So, yep.
Walking away.
Pardon?
Walking away.
Blocking the way.
Walking away.
Oh, walking away. Yeah? You don't like someone walking away from you?
No, walking away. Just like walking away for dangerous.
Oh, yeah? Nice. So walking away from stuff? That's cool. Yeah, excellent. Yep. Oh. You know, you could buy a house doing that at an auction, just saying, so be careful what you do with your hands.
I think I actually have a habit of like invading other people's boundary when it comes to personal space, my bad.
Yeah. Who is a personal space boundary breaker? Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Give people a hug. You know, they kind of get that kind of, you know, you see a little snot dribble out as you sort of go to hug them because they're like, you know, trying to, you know. Yeah, I get it. And sometimes we even feel like that's kind of okay. When they say, no, this is a personal boundary, you just go, bah! You know. Beck does that all the time, you know.
Today to stop touching me and she didn't leave me alone.
So you've got some issues we need to resolve later. All right, good. You know.
I had her in a headlock.
Yeah. Oh, that was when I walked in and you were turning blue, tapping the table. I'm out! And I said, what are you doing to the staff? She wouldn't listen to me. Yeah, personal boundaries like that. You know, I get it. Not in front of the children. Yeah. Here's a simple explanation for you. I looked this up and this was a really cool explanation. It separates your emotions from your responsibilities. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a home that was really, really good at what they call coded language. You know, where they would sort of say something like, and people still do it. I still do it, I reckon, today, you know. It's bin night. They just make that announcement, you know, it's bin night. You know, or the lawns are getting long.
Who does that? Traffic lights.
This could be confronting for you. Mary! You know. So,
Well, you need to feed the dog.
yeah, someone should feed the dog.
The dog's hungry.
Someone should feed the dog, you know. Someone doesn't live here. People with names live here, you know. So, do you ever experience that where it's like somebody, you kind of feel like somebody puts this statement out there and you wait for the first responder. Who feels the most guilty or like, damn, there's an awkward silence after someone says something. Like that. Every time I come home, there's dishes in the sink.
Don't you have a dishwasher?
Yeah, but even that I've seen that. Like I got a dishwasher, and I still have dishes in the sink, and I come home and I'll say,
Yeah, I do too.
why are the dishes not in the dishwasher?
No, I have
Cricket.
I have a dishwasher in the sink, right? And I find tea bags left in the sink all the time. It drives me insane.
Oh, that's where, isn't that where tea bags belong? Oh, you know. Oh, in the bin. Oh, damn it, I knew I got that one wrong. So, there is a time where each of us have to figure out, now the challenge for us is simply this. I might have a set of rules, regulations, boundaries that I live by, you know, and Taylor might have a set of rules and boundaries that she lives by, and the funny part is they may not be the same. So what I find as a boundary and what Taylor defines as a boundary might be two totally different ideas, and I have this personality that almost doesn't mean it, but just sort of says, that's what it says. You know, boundaries, what is that? Give me a hug, you know. And she might say, I'm not the huggy kind of person. Now we know she is, but the reality is for each of us, we have to figure out what first is your boundary. The reason you have to do that is because you get that feeling when someone crosses your boundary, when someone goes into your room. Whoever's really cracked it when someone comes into your room and they're so not welcome.
They leave the door open this much.
Yeah, like the other day, I'm at home. I'm in the shower, I get out of the shower, I'm walking, my door is closed. Alright? I'm walking to my, wardrobe to get another pair of underpants, and the door opens. Dad, what? You know, and the boys go, oh, well, the one in particular goes, ah! Oh, yeah! Never shall I see him again. You know, I just stood there. You walked in, man, crossed the boundary. That's what you get. You saw all of that, you know. So, yeah. I thought that's normal in our house, yeah. And it's all full of boys anyway. So the challenge is simply that. It's like the door is shut. You know what knocking is? But here's what sometimes they'll do. Knock, enter. It's like saying, you know, I don't wish to offend you, you know, with all due respect, but I'm going to say something, a bit like Talladega Nights, you know, with all due respect, but I'm going to tell you you're a moron. All right, so the issue is simply that they can knock and enter. You ever done that to your brothers or sisters? All the time. Do they do it to you?
Yeah.
And do you love it?
No.
Do you do it to them?
Yes.
And do you care?
No.
so there's an example of how we have a boundary for our... Yes, Dom?
Mum does it to all of us, but she yells at us if we don't knock. So like she'll tell us you have to knock before entering if you like the door and opens the door at the same time.
Yeah.
And she yells at us for not knocking.
Yeah. So I go to my boys' room, right? You know, this is personal. I go and knock on the door. And no answer. So I'm a bit like Sheldon. Knock, knock. Knock, knock.
Danny.
Knock, knock. Daniel, knock, knock. You know? And Daniel goes, dude, it's unlocked. I go, yeah, I know, but are you, like, you know? He goes, yeah, I'm dressed. You know, I don't want to walk in. I really respect people's privacy. I've never walked in the bathroom on it, ever. Not one time in my entire life. Personal boundary. For them and for me. Never walked into their bedroom without being asked to come on into their bedroom. Even if the door's open. I'll say, can I come in and chat to you for a second? Now, it can seem fairly formal, but it's a matter of just respecting. I have a friend of mine whose father would walk in on her at any point. If she had a boyfriend over, doesn't matter, you know. Hello, sweetie.
Makes me very cold.
You know, it's go. You know, it's that kind of thing where we have this moment in our worlds where we have these boundaries, but sometimes we almost expect people to know them without actually saying them to someone. And so your boundary isn't manipulation. Sometimes people will do something to make you feel bad. They'll say something to you about a boundary to make you feel bad and try and manipulate you to do what they want. If you're that kind of person, you need to shift the way that you have set boundaries. The reality for you guys is simply this. Right through your life, at school, at work, at home, wherever you are, with friends, with boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever it is, you have to be really clear about what your boundaries are in your life. And the fact is, you're the only one that has the right to shift them. So I had certain boundaries when I was younger that have shifted as I got older. You know, they've moved out. I allow more people kind of into my space, whereas back in the day, if my brother tried to enter my bedroom, I wanted to shoot him in the face with a 3-barrel shotgun, not 2. I wanted to go that one next level, you know. And I say, because at times he would cross the boundary where I would have a girlfriend and she would be writing little love notes, you know. And back in the day, that's when we actually wrote love notes. And it wasn't a text, you know, saying, would you go out with me? They actually looked at you and asked you that. And she would write me little love notes. And I would put them in my room thinking they were safe. And then I would come home, my door was open, and there's my brother on the bed. You know, oh, she's so in love with you. You know? And all of a sudden you felt that feeling of violated. You know, something that was so precious to you between another person was violated. We can be really good at this, about being manipulative, about not getting our own way at times in our home. With our brothers, sisters, mums, dads, at school, whatever it is. We crack the poo-poos when we don't get our own way and we become manipulative because we're trying to get our needs met, and we have not clearly identified what is going on here. And so all these boundaries get blurred and crossed over all the time in our entire life. So it's really important that as you, where you are right now in your age, in your, where you are in your life, if you're a worker, if you're living with people, if you're in a home environment, that you're really clear on what your boundaries are. Because if you don't articulate them, now it's not about being snooty, right? It's not about saying, stay out of my life, I'll include you when I feel like it. Because if you live in a home environment, some of it's just tough. You're part of a family and you have to contribute, that's what it is. But it is really important that you do have some really clear boundaries. Do you have a clear boundary on a relationship? How far will you go in a relationship? Do you have clear boundaries on friendships? What you expect from a friend? Do they know that? Do they know what you expect? And what kind of friend you're going to be? How much of you you're going to give to that person? At school, how much, do you allow yourself to be bullied at school, or are you the one that does the bullying? Are you crossing over people's boundaries, or are you letting people to cross your boundaries? Yeah.
Nothing, I was just scratching my head.
Oh, that's cool. No worries. So, for me, when I grew up, I grew up with this environment of coded language. And the reason this was so tormenting for me is because I never knew at any one time where I actually stood within the family unit. I kind of was, somebody would say something, and because I grew up in an alcoholic home, it was kind of like you just didn't even know. Are you stretching that?
If people try to do something, just walk away and just tell the teacher.
No, you can tell the teacher, you can do that, that's a good way to do it.
Tell your friend.
You can tell a friend, phone a friend, yeah, that could work. So the challenges for us is simply this. When I was growing up, I had this coded language, and somehow, in the environment that I grew up in, it was kind of like built into my DNA. So when I got into relationships, or into when my kids came along, all of a sudden I just started doing this thing automatically and going, what? That like didn't even give someone the respect of calling their name. So guys, I want to challenge you this week that when it comes to your boundaries in your life, we can have them in all kinds of stuff. You can have them in your relationships, friends. Now guys, if you're going through friendships, yeah, if you're going through friendships regularly, then you probably want to be really clear about what your expectations are of friends.
I never mad at my friends. Never.
You never what?
I never mad.
You're never mad at your friends.
No.
That's a cool friend to have. So the challenge for us is simply, if they don't know what your friendship is,
I only get mad when someone gets silly at me.
they what?
I only get mad when someone goes silly. Like, they silly.
I get silly too, mate. My friends go mad too. My boys try and put a pillow over my face. So it doesn't work, no, because I'm bigger. So the challenge is simply this, right? You've got to be really clear with your friends. You have to know what the boundaries are that you have in a friendship. And what that means is you need to clearly tell them what you want out of this friendship. I've been testing that of late with some of the guy mates that I hang out with. I say to them simple things like this, and it unsettles them a bit. I said, I think I'm looking forward to making you one of my best friends. They go, oh what? Like I'm nearly 50. All right, so it's kind of like what you're saying when you're in primary school. You're my bestest best friend. And when I say to them, you're getting closer to being one of my best friends, it's kind of like unsettling. Like, hang on, that's really emotional. If you cannot really identify what your emotional state as a person is versus what you're responsible for. So what I mean by that is, in a home, you might be responsible for putting the bins out, mowing the lawn, cleaning up the dog turd, whatever it is that you're responsible for. That's your responsibility as being part of a family unit. If that's not clear, then you're going to have a relationship breakdown every time. If you come into your house, into your space, like I do at times, I come in, and if the place is a mess, I've been away all weekend, I come back and the boys have schmozzled the house, I've got something to say about that. But if I walk around all huffy and don't say anything for 3 days, then it's not their problem. Whose problem is it? It's my problem. Why?
Because you haven't addressed it.
Because I haven't addressed it, and what am I doing? I'm coding them with what? Silence. Isn't that just awesome? How many of you really love coded silence? No, I hate it. I'm just joking, all right? How many of you do coded silence? That's the next... Come on, we all do that. We all get, so do. It's because when we don't get our needs met, that's a trigger for you. When we don't get our needs met, we go all huffy and silent when so-and-so didn't text us on Valentine's Day. bitch. You know, yeah, how rude. I was so expecting. Or did they know that that's how you felt? And did you initiate first? No, because I always initiate. You know, it's up to them. We're best friends. Well, they might be your best friend, but you might not be theirs. Because you've never articulated what being the best friend is all about.
Okay, here's one. I only done one.
You go, I didn't get one. You know, anyway, so
We're here for you, Phil.
reaching out. Oh, I'm here for you too. Expectations met. Done. Move on. So the fact is this: trust gets broken in relationships, in friendships all the time. Boundaries get crossed. That's what happens when trust gets broken. If you have not told someone what is your trust point, what I mean is, what does it take for that to be broken, then it'll be unclear and you think, oh geez, these relationships are hard work. Friendships are hard work. Yep, they are. But they're even harder work and exhausting, and almost they get broken when we become silent because people don't know what our expectations and our boundaries are. You'll know when a boundary has been crossed. You'll know it. Because you get that feeling that starts down in here. Someone walks in, you walk into your house, someone's in your bedroom.
I hate that.
That feeling.
My sister's 11 years old and she goes in my room all the time.
Wait, is this
Plays with my iPad, plays with everything else in my room. I was at work one time and she called like multiple of my friends, my cousins, everyone on Facebook. I got home and they're like, oh, why is such and such calling you? I didn't call you.
Caitlin!
And do you do it like that?
Yes.
Do you get all big
I
on
get
there?
so annoyed.
Bang you into the paint!
Don't be to be like that. It's so annoying. She does it all the time.
They do it all the time! Yeah, nice, love it.
Sharing because every time I go outside, my sister will bring all her friends over, and then they'll like sit on my bed, and then if I want to sleep, I have to wait 4 hours till they leave so I can go to bed.
Yeah.
They trash around my bed and all over the floor, and then one clean spot in the room.
Love it.
I don't even care if my sister scratched my room. I just go, oh well, I was safe, so if it just come in and do the work and stuff.
Well, you've got cool, but your boundaries might be really close, you know, so they're not out here, they're really close to you, so people can do that and you don't feel stressed
I'm
over.
next to the ledger.
Nice. Oh, are you scratching your head, raising your arm? What, no? Alright, yeah.
When my sister leaves to go to uni, TAFE, I always go into her room and use her perfume.
It's gold. It's so gold, isn't it? You know? No, they won't mind. You know, you get that little eyebrow twitch that they have at times, yeah? You know, it's gold, yeah?
Sometimes she'll forget something, she'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you smell like me. Why am I going through so much perfume? I didn't wear that top. Why is it in the wash? You know? Yeah. It all flows around, mate. Let's go. It's too so wearing my top, yeah.
My sister owns a very bulldog, and she went away at one point. And Mum was actually surprised that there's this dog in the house, which she doesn't usually do. And I went to let him off. He gallops off because he hears a dog up the road. So I'm holding onto his collar and he's dragging me around the neighbourhood because he's a strong ass dog. And I'm thinking, if I lose this dog, I'm gonna die. My sister's gonna kill me. I was in hysterics. And my sister's like, and my sister saw all of a sudden just called me and she's like, where's the dog? I'm like, he's taking me for a walk around the neighbourhood and I'm crying on the phone to my sister. You lose my dog and I'll kill you. And eventually it took me like an hour to find it.
That's gold. I was really great when my brother would ring me or he would catch up with me about something and say, I could come up with a story on the spot. You know, like boom, I just make up a lie. You know, like to protect myself. You know, because he was bigger than me and he'd pummel me, whereas I was good with words, whereas he was good with his fists. So as many times as I spoke, he would thump me. You know, and so until I got a little bigger, and then that all changed around. So the challenge for us is simply that. If people don't respect your boundary, is it clear? Guys, in a family environment, if there's a boundary of a room or personal stuff, it is better, I always say it's better to get forgiveness than permission, but that's not a good philosophy, right? So, sorry I worried you think, so it's going to stir up some hatred, you know. I always say that when I bought stuff. I used to say to my wife, you know, oh, sorry I bought a car. But where if I rang up and asked her for permission, she goes, no, you don't buy another car. Well, she doesn't speak like that, but, you know, the reality for us is simply, if you don't respect someone else's boundaries, then don't expect them to respect yours. See, because you can get all huffy, you can get all snotty, you can get all silent, but if you are crossing someone else's boundary, now someone else's boundary might seem to be ridiculous. Like it could be something as simple as don't touch my shoes, or don't use my hairbrush, or don't stop sneaking into my bathroom and using my toothbrush. Get your own. You know, whatever it is, it could be something as simple as that really upsets someone. So then you have nowhere to stand if somebody else is stepping over your boundaries because it's not one to them. So the issue for us is we settle all the time. In family life, in relationships, we settle for less because we haven't clearly said what our boundaries are in our life. Now, often what happens is this. I had a friend of mine who could only tell you when he was crapped off about something after about like the 15th time something had happened. And he usually did it at an explosive level. So there are those kind of people whose personalities are explosive. Boom! They're like right in your face and go, whoa, man, that was like straight up. And then there are those other people who are seething. Now, I'm a seether, right? So that's I sort of take a long time. So I'm like a slow cooker. I take a long time to get on the boil. But once I'm at boiling point, you better run, you know, because knives and guns are coming out at that level, right? You know, I've put snakes in your bed, I've poisoned your dog, you know, it's all at that level. You know? Don't get me to that level, right? So, and I'm usually very, very, very good at revenge, you know. But my brother, for example, you'd be talking to him, he'd just punch you right in the face like that. I go, what the hell, man? He goes, you crossed the boundary, man. And I go, oh, I wasn't even at boundary level yet, you know, for me. So I was a seether. And the problem at times with violent one, with the explosive one, is they never stop to listen about what you're trying to say. They just, you know, their room's been invaded. Pop! You know, that's it. They're blowing all over. It's a mess, right? The problem with seething is that something gets crossed over, a line. You put a line in the sand. I've got a friend of mine, we're down camping at the summertime, and I've known this gal for 25 years, maybe 30 years. And we camp together every summer. And I see her name's Jodie, and every time I see her, we have this, I reckon we were separated at birth. We're like brother and sister. And I was walking out of the shower and at the campsite there, and I'm walking down the pathway, and I can see her in the distance walking down the little road at the caravan park, right? And I'm looking at her and, you know, we have this little funny thing. And so we walk up, and it was like two people, like a Western movie. We were like going to like shoot one another, and she sees me. As she sees me, she stops. And I stop. Now, I was in a vulnerable position at one level because I had my toiletries under my arm and my towel on, all right? So I only had one arm and two legs, right, that I could have taken her, all right? But I reckon I could have still taken her, you know? Anyway, as we got closer, we were doing this. And as we got really close, I took my raw foot, you know, barefoot, you know, and I drew a line in the sand. We haven't spoken by this time, right? We're just grunting, all right? I drew a line on the dirt, all right? I said, what do you reckon she did? She just went. She's looking at me like that. You know what I'm talking about. She looks at me. And now she's like, you know, 5 foot, you know.
5 foot is behind.
She's nugget. Oh, 5 foot, okay, I'll give you that. You know, she's nuggety, you know, and she's like, what are you going to do about it? I said, you just crossed the line. So what did I do?
Pushed up.
Drew another line.
So she stepped over there.
And what did she do?
She stepped over it.
What are you going to do? I said, I'm going to do this. Bam! You know, headbutt. Right there, you know. And then I ran, because I had a towel on.
You had nothing to do.
So I figured, I might have let go of the towel at that point, she fainted. But the reality was, you know, it's kind of like naked man. So the reality is, I gave her a little headbutt tap, you know, and then I ran because I knew I was in strife. She was going to get that towel off me one way or another, you know. And so the challenge for us is simply that. Here was this unsaid line in the sand that we just kind of sort of toss about, you know, and that can happen with all of us if we don't say what the line is. We must learn to speak up. My brother, when he was younger, had all this emotion going on inside him, so he was volatile, so he used these rather than speaking. And so he would punch you before he'd talk to you because of something that was important to him had been crossed over. But he hadn't spoken about it for so long that it had built up to a point of explosion. And the problem is, even when he exploded, it didn't relieve it all, it just knocked the top off. And so the next thing that happened just sort of topped him back up so he's ready to pop again every time. If you are frustrated by a family member, by a situation, by whatever it is, you have to stop settling for that's pretty. And you have to stop settling for less. If something's important to you, then you need to clearly articulate it to people why it is so important to you. I have, now in my life, certain expectations and certain standards, certain boundaries, if you like, that nobody will cross. They couldn't possibly. I gave up C's when I was 21, so that was a fair while back. You know, I just made a decision, I was done with it. Since that time, I did not go backwards and forwards and having patches and trying to light your cigarettes and cutting it. I just cut it, bump, straight out. Just said, pardon? Went cold turkey. But the thing was, I made a decision. I had mates of mine that would light ciggies and blow it in my face. I said, you do that one more time, mate, you're not going to get smoke in your face. You know, they knew the line. So the challenge for us, and I've got several boundaries now that you could not possibly cross. No one could cross them. And you'll know it if you do. You'll know if you come close to them too. But as I've got older, I realised I've become tolerant of things too, because I realise it's not all about what I want. If you want to live in a family environment, in a community, I think it's probably more so in a family environment, it's really important the way we speak to one another in a family, that it's respectful always. Not sometimes. Always. Why is it always important to speak respectfully in your family environment? Why? What do you reckon? My boys and I have never screamed at one another, not one time. So the boys are 23 and they can verify it to you. We've had straight words, we've had strong words, but we've never screamed at one another, we've never abused one another. So the oldest one is 23 and Josh was 21. Why is that important? Have you ever been screamed at?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? Alex? Yeah. Hang on, yeah, come back to you. Alex?
It's important to have not to scream and communicate more calmly to one another, because I think it's a different level of communication. If you scream at one another, you sort of put each other off.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've ever been yelled at, but you know, if I get yelled at by, say, my boss, or when I was at school, a teacher or something like that, and they just lost their patience with me, I'd spend half the day thinking of ways I could get back at them, and things like that, and just more negative than positive.
Yeah. It's like chipping away. You know, you watch a lumberjack or wood chipper, or whatever you want to call it, you know, a tree lopper, an arborist, whatever you want to call them, you know, people that chop a tree. Yeah.
So when you scream at someone, you don't really hear them, whereas if you talk firmly or strongly, you hear them.
So, you're right.
So if you did something wrong, and someone yelled and screamed at you, you would turn off.
Yeah.
Because you don't like it. Whereas if someone spoke strongly or sternly or firmly, you would hear them and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you have ever had these, but I used to have one when I was a young kid. The bank used to give you piggy banks, and they were pink and they were made of ceramic. Now they're plastic, so you can't have as much fun smashing them. You know.
And they were pigs.
They what?
They were pigs.
Yeah, they were pigs. I used to have one.
Now they're like
Yeah, and I used to fill it with 1 and 2 cents, $1 note, $1 coins. You know, 1 and 2 cent pieces, whatever it was. And, you know, for that you could buy a lot of lollies, right? And when it was, so you imagine, I had this piggy bank at one point that you couldn't get any more coins in the top. They were like coins bugging out of the top like that. And I would shake this pig furiously, and I would try and stuff these coins in, and it got to a point where I just couldn't get any more. Now, later on, they decided to put a belly plug in these things, but you know, back in the day, you got your money in, you weren't getting it out unless you could shake that little piggy, you know, really hard and get it out, you know. But it's not like you get a knife and cut it, because it was ceramic, so it was going nowhere. It was more like a grinder, you know. And so you used to take your hammer, and it was like fun. You'd go to the bank, and the bank manager would come out with a hammer, and pop, you know, and then all that money would go into your bank account. I just wanted to go into the lollies and into my tummy, but you know. So there were several times I smashed this pig, right, you know, because I had several of them, you know, and I'd smash this thing, and that's what relationships are like. When you're screaming at someone, it's like someone taking the hammer and smashing the crap out of your little pig, you know, with all of those. So if you can imagine, all the coins is all the relationships. So if Rory and I have a relationship, you know, and we are adding coins to one another's relationship, adding value to one another, and I begin to speak poorly to him, it's like me taking that little piggy and shaking the crap out of it, trying to get stuff out of it, and at some point it's going to be empty. At some point, if I keep doing that, if I keep shaking the crap, well, he'd probably shake the crap out of me, but you know, and I'm the little piggy that would enter, you know, empty out all that. Don't hit me hard. So the challenge is, if this relationship keeps breaking down and I keep taking out, I keep saying to him poor things and bad things to him, I'm going to empty that bank account, and soon enough, that little piggy is going to be empty. That little relationship bank is going to be empty. But see, we have to deal with our own stuff first, our own issues, our own boundaries, and take responsibility, because if we keep emptying that bank account, you're going to have no friends and no family members in your entire world. So it's really important that when we're speaking to someone, in particular in family, and also in friendships, that we don't lose our cool. Yeah, looking for a word. There was another one in mind. But, you know, that we don't lose our cool at someone else, because every time we do that, it's like taking a coin out of that bank. It's like taking money out and saying, you know what, I don't care how I'm going to make you feel like right now, this is how I feel. And so you step over the boundary of respect and you begin to say, you're not of value to me anymore, I'm going to take from you. It is hard at times to set a boundary where you deal with stuff in your life. I'll come back in a moment. Yeah, it's really important that we understand that when we're relating to people, they have to know what we feel, what we expect. As my kids need to tell me how I'm doing as a dad, and they don't scream at me, right? Because I'm not. The minute they start screaming at me, you know, this roller door comes up, and I shut everything off because I want to repel the stuff that's nasty that's coming at me. And I'm thinking, what did I do? What boundary did I cross for them to feel like this towards me? And so I try and trace it back. Now, they've never done that. The challenge is simply for us is that in a relationship, in a friendship, in whatever it is, if you don't know clearly what your boundaries are, if you're going to go out with a boy or a girl, or whether it's just friends or family members, you need to be really clear about every single time that you cross the boundary and take away from something. You better make sure. I know we spoke last year about the 1 to 5 rule. Is that right? Remember that one? Those of you around? If you say something negative to someone, if I say something negative to Rory about his world, I better back that up with 5 great things, 5 good things about that person. Why 5? It's what?
It's more than one.
Well, because it's more than one. Yeah, that's right. 5 is more than one. Yep.
I think because statistically that's the amount of good things that a person needs to hear to counteract the bad things.
I don't know about you, but somebody says something negative to me, I can still remember the old geezer on the Warburton Trail that told me I was fat. You know, and I'm thinking, if I ever see that guy again, I'm going to kick him into the bush. You know, so, you know, I'm going to kill his pet dog. You know, whatever it is. He crossed the boundary! Lucky Beck was there. He goes, oh man, he would have been dead in the bush. You know, so, you know, when I step back from that, I think to myself, okay, he's just an old guy that doesn't know me. Why did that upset me so much?
You didn't know him.
Yeah, but it was only one time. But why did that upset me so much? Susan? Yeah, I'll come back. He didn't have anything positive, but keep thinking. Why? Pardon? Hang on, I was here.
You're already conscious about it.
Because I'm already conscious, and I've already had another 10 people say it to me. So I'm thinking, you know, you're that old guy stepped across the line. He's the one. Boom! He's the one that was dogs getting poisoned. So the challenge is, what did he do? He was just trying to be helpful. He was just trying to get me healthy. Little did he know whose number was up. You know, so the challenge is, I know, I joke. Forgive me. You know, so the challenge is, he was the last one in a series of people who had crossed the line where I had allowed people to say, I even had someone at Christmas time say it to me. 2 people sitting across the desk, across the table to me, said to me, they just did that. Beck was there, right?
Like a lady off my kitchen roof.
Yeah. And I'd just been cooking the barbecue. So there was a long knife that I'd been slicing chicken with, right? I'll tell you what I did. No, I didn't lift it, but I could feel my hand grip the knife. You think I'm joking? You know, I could feel my hand grip the knife, not because, well, I felt like in my, you know how you have that kind of out of body experience where you go, you know, not that you never do that. Not that I'm saying you're murderers, you know, maybe I am. But I'm a great youth worker. So, you know. Be careful. If you knew my birthday, you'd know why this is so important. So, the challenge was, I could feel my hand on the table, gripping the knife, and it wasn't because I wanted to stab someone, it's because I was sick and tired of people stepping over that boundary and feeling like they had permission. I call it taking a liberty. They felt like they had the permission to say that yet again to my life. I would never dream of saying that to someone, not in a million years. If someone comes up to me and say, you know, I'm fat, and they're fat, and they want to lose weight, and this is their plan, cool. I'm not going to say, I was going to say something, you know. I've been thinking about that for a long time, but girlfriend, you better get that fat off, you know. I'm not going to say that, am I? You know. It's coronary coming your way, diabetes type 2, you know, like I'm not, what am I going to say? You know? I know I'm a dark child, I get it. I know I've got issues. So the challenge is, the issue is simply this. We wonder why at times we're so confused in our life. We wonder why we have trouble holding on to friends. We wonder why we can't say things to people because somewhere, way back here in the beginnings of your life, you allowed people to cross the boundary so many times that for some of us sitting in this room, it has silenced you, and if you don't deal with this issue, it will silence you for the rest of your life. People will continue to step over the boundary, over the line for you, and you will say nothing to them, and you will go quietly into the night. And sometimes we have experienced, sadly in our journey, people end up taking their own life because they feel like they haven't been able to say anything to someone about what's going on in their life, and nobody gives a crap at the end of the day. So guys, tonight, if I can encourage you, don't settle for less. It is a long journey.
On the weekend, you know, I haven't seen my cousin for a long time, and I would never ever say it to her, but she's put on a lot of weight.
Imagine if she watches the videos.
I've never said it to her, but I'll say it in front of 50 people. Oh, it's the truth though. Someone's got to tell her. Ah, that's gold. Yeah. David's giving birth next week. So, the challenge is... Jesus! No, that's where I love Talladega Nights, you know, with all due respect, but you're fat, you know. What? That's like, I love you, pat, you know. So the challenge for us, guys, here's the thing. It's not what we say at times, it's the way it gets said to someone. if you're the kind of person, if you're, don't have, Mary, I hope 6 degrees separation. I hope we don't know your friends. I was talking to Mary the other day. She, yeah, you really are fat. She said you were. You want to know? She's coming to beat me, I can tell you. Careful, I've got the knife. You know, so the challenge, that, guys, quickly before we go into our packs, is simply this. If you're the kind of person that feels like every now and again you get this kind of feeling of something in you, and it kind of starts in here. It starts where you get that feeling. You can't articulate, you can't say it, because it's just like, you know, that kind of moment, you know? You all know that face, right? Because you've all, you know, kill that rabbit. You know, so the challenge for us is simply, if you're an explosive person, step back from the explosion.
Step right back.
I'm a seether, so be careful, because you'll never know when the line is. If I ever do that to you, step back quickly. Right, so, and don't come near me if I'm serving on a barbecue and talk to me about being fat. So, tip boundary, right? So the challenge for us simply this week is, if you have got to a point where you are silenced. Now I'm really serious about this. There were things in my life that I was silent on, and they echo for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They echo. They kind of keep us all bound and icky. They give that feeling of like we're not worth. I was talking about this with David on the weekend. There was something that happened to me on Friday, and it really upset me. You know, it really disturbed me, and I had to take the afternoon off to get away. Hang on a second. And I had to get away and try and regroup myself, you know, because I was feeling like a failure. And I'm going, where the hell is that coming from? And I can trace it way back. People who have crossed over the line and decisions I've made way back in my entire life that I've never looked at, dealt with, or challenged, or changed my mind about that perspective of who I am in that particular area of my life. So therefore, it just continues to echo on. I want to encourage you, don't settle for less when it comes to you. Over these next few weeks, we're going to be really digging into some stuff about you, about how you see yourself, about, you know, what lies beneath. So I'm looking at some really fantastic stuff about you. But this week, I want you to think about, if there's that moment where somebody does something, steps over a boundary, don't get mad, get even. No, don't get even. Oh. Sorry, sit down. Don't get mad, right? Don't get mad, get clear. Get clear about saying to someone, hey, you know, when you do that, it really offends me. It really upsets me. And please don't do it again. Now, if it's a brother and sister, like, what are you going to do about it? Permission. Yeah, no, don't do that. No, love on them. So, guys, this week when you go into your packs, tonight when you go into your packs, I want you to think about, maybe talk with your pack leader, is there stuff that you're settling for? For me, growing up, my mum and my dad was a disaster. Dad was an alcoholic, so I just didn't tell anybody. Didn't bring anybody to my house. Didn't want anybody to know my world, so I remained silent. So nobody could help me. Nobody could work it out with me. Nobody would get alongside me because they thought, oh, Phil's got it all right, it's all good. And I learnt behaviour right through my entire life, how to disguise what was going on. So don't settle for less. Form some clear boundaries this week for you. Take your phone, write some notes in your packs, talk about what is one boundary that really bugs you, that's raw right now, that you feel like, you know what, I'm going to set the line. And let me encourage you, don't step back from the line. Give them a headbutt and run, right? So, have a good pack. Over to you.